Hey, how you doing? This is RJ. Today I am looking at the Indiegogo campaign for Jack Irons, the Steel Cowboy, number 2. Now this is number 2. Number 1 you can go online and read for free, and I'll put the link for that into the description below. You should go and read that, and that'll give you a good indication whether or not you want to back Jack Irons, Steel Cowboy, number 2. It is there completely for free online, and the writer for this, which is Cody Fernandez, has made sure that that is out there for you, that you have that little piece of history of this character right there for you before you even decide whether or not you want to back number 2, because this Indiegogo campaign is for number 2. So I think that's great. He's giving you some of his story right there beforehand for free before you want to decide you want the second issue or not. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, first of all, Jack Irons number 1, and then about Jack Irons number 2 as it is here in this Indiegogo campaign, and then a little bit about the Indiegogo campaign itself. So to look at Jack Irons number 1. Now, I had seen this sort of out of the corner of my eye from different places on the internet as I was going through comic things, just Twitter feeds and Indiegogo itself, seeing at the bottom of the page. And when I originally saw it, again, sort of like out of the corner of my eye, it kind of looked like something that would have come out of Mobius in early days, a cross between that and possibly Cowboy Bebop. But when I actually got to read it, it's much different than what I expected to begin with. It's much more a combination, we'll say, in my mind anyways, of two kinds of 70s-ish movies. So we got, on the one hand, you got spaghetti westerns, and the other you got 70s sci-fi. It looks like a combination of both of those when I read it, when I look at it. That's what it looks like to me. And it is something that comes together well, I think, with this artist and with this writer. Now, going over Jack Irons number 1, I personally had, well, not so much a problem with it, but I can see faults in it just because, quite honestly, his writing style, his way of telling a story, very similar to the way that I originally tried to tell a story myself. When I wrote a manuscript, I had a very similar idea for a story, which is to take something in the future and mix a whole lot of the past in with it. And I was told by editors the problem with that is that, well, you need to honestly hold the hand of your reader for a lot of the time, and putting in non-linear storytelling is going to lose you some readers right off the bat. And the other thing with this is he has some philosophical backing for the story. So the story about Jack Irons is that he's been alive for 200 years and that he has memories of past lives for 2,000 years. So besides the fact that you're going to lose some readers with the non-linear storytelling, you have some philosophy in your book. And like I said in one of my other videos, I got no problem with having some philosophy in your book. The problem is that we live not only in a philosophically poor time in history, we live in a philosophical wasteland compared to most of the rest of history. And so you're going to lose a lot of readers right there as well. Now, Cody Fernandez, who is the creator of Jack Irons, he has a passion for this project and for Jack Irons, and he wants to write this story for a long time. He seems like he has a lot of ideas and a lot of stories to go with Jack Irons, and that is good and bad in a couple of ways. It'll go back and forth. It's because of the fact that the story is nonlinear and it has these philosophical elements to it, which mixed with the nonlinear, you're going to lose a lot of readers right off the bat. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad story, and I'm not saying it's poorly executed. I'm saying it's a good story. I'm just saying that it's not going to appeal to everyone. And you try to appeal to as many people as you can, because if you don't have that customer base, then it doesn't matter if you have a passion for it. It doesn't matter if you want to write the story for a long time. If no one's going to read the story, if you don't have backers, you don't have people giving you money, because you need money to pay the artist, you need money to pay the letterer and the colorer. If you need if you don't have that money, can't pay those people, you can't produce another comic. And all the passion in the world is not going to change that. So, Jack Irons #1 was written in that vein. And again, if you can, if nonlinear storytelling is your type of thing, if you like a little bit of philosophy in your story, you're going to like it. And I'd say Jack Irons #2 is probably going to be the same. It looks like it's written in the same vein. So I really love this art too, by the way. The art really has its own style. It has a sort of jagged edged feel to it. I think that the artist has to do a little bit more world building for the future, because he has a really good grasp on the sort of minimalistic descriptions through his art of the past scenes in this book, which happen in history. But he needs to do a little more world building for the future scenes, because they deserve a little more detail, a little more, we'll say, personalization by this artist. But I like the art. It's really good. So what I'm thinking is going to happen with this comic with Jack Irons is that, unfortunately, I think that they're not going to continue on with the amount of support that they have right now, because right now they've reached 133% of their original goal. So last time I looked, they had $3,324 raised with 170 backers, which is great. It passed their goal. I don't think that is going to continue. I just think that they're going to get people dropping off after a while, after issue 3, after issue 4. And his storytelling that he wants to tell for this character, Jack Irons, is just not going to last very long. But I think that if this team sticks together, it's going to produce something after Jack Irons, which is probably going to take off a lot better and have a lot more staying power, because you can be an artist, you can be a storyteller, and you can learn as many things as you can from other people. You can learn as many things from honing your storytelling and your art, but there's something which you can't learn on your own, and it's something that you usually learn from the customer. It's what the customer wants, and it's a learning curve. You got to learn what the customer wants, and I think that the customers are going to want more of this kind of storytelling. I think the customer is going to want more of this kind of art, and it's going to want them together, but it's just not going to want them as Jack Irons stories. I think that they're going to ask for a little more simplistic storytelling and a little bit more of a connection, we'll say, that's like a linear story, and because it would be a linear story, it will have the artist also continue on in a linear vein, as to say, he'll build on previous things that he has drawn. So the other thing that this is nothing to do with the campaign itself or any fault with the campaign itself. Personally, this is my problem with this, is that he offers only PDFs for it, and I'm a guy who likes paper. Quite literally, Jack Irons #1 is the first digital comic I've ever read all the way through. So I need a book in my hands, and Cody is looking to get it published by, I think it's Wicked Publishing that's going to do it for him. But when and where that's going to come out, it's not entirely clear right now. If I ever see this on the shelf, I'll buy it. But he is going to try, I think, to get physical copies of the book out to anybody who gives more than $25 to the campaign. But my problem with that is just a personal problem. Again, is I'm not technically within I am technically overseas, so I'm not within the United States proper, so I'm not going to get something sent out to me. So that's my problem. But again, that's just my problem. But if you go and read Jack Irons #1 and you really like the art and you like digital comics, I really suggest that you go and back this, because he's only asking for, the first perk is $2, second one is $5, third one is $10. I mean, you're paying peanuts for this. This is something you want to spend a couple of dollars on your entertainment, and you like this art, you like this storytelling, go and buy it. I really think that this is something that needs to be backed. Again, in my personal experience, I don't think that they're going to be able to keep Jack Irons going for as long as they want to, but I think it's going to provide them with a good customer base in order to produce things in the future that are going to take off really well. So, to move on to the Indiegogo campaign and just to talk about the campaign itself for a little bit, this campaign is run really well. Especially for someone who is not technically in the comic industry. I think he learned from his first campaign and has taken a lot of that experience and put it into the second campaign. Everybody is pushing this book. That is to say, all the creators are really, really just out there and are plugging it as much as they can. Like I said, I have seen this in a number of places, from YouTube to Twitter to the bottom of the Indiegogo campaign page for other comics that are out there. And, it was always in the back of my mind for the last month that I got to go check this out. I got to go check this out. And you got to follow up that I got to go check it out with keep on making sure that those things are out there if you're the person running that campaign, to make sure you keep on reminding that person, go and check it out, go and check it out, go and check it out, because eventually they will. But you got to really goad them, because, well, you're on the internet. You're going to fly from one thing to another and things are going to drop off your radar really quickly. But the campaign was run really well. It's not done yet. It has 15 days left. So like I said, I suggest you go and back this. But if you're into digital comics, if you like the art, go and back it. But to get back to the page itself, to the Indiegogo campaign itself, really well done. I think that there's only one slight hiccup in the campaign itself. It's that on the updates, I find the updates a little bit confusing. I'm not entirely sure what a few of the updates mean. I'm sure that if I was to contact Cody and ask him what they mean, I would actually get a response, which is, again, one of the other things that is really great about this campaign. He has some interaction with the fans. He's not going to start a long conversation with you, I'm sure, because he's a busy man and trying to get this out there. But he will give you a heads up if you have a question. He will say thank you if you promote his book, which is great. Interaction with the fans is great. It's like when I went over Jungle Comics last time. That was a bit of the problem with it, because you got Chuck Dixon, who's a bit long in the tooth, great storyteller and all, but he's settled in his ways. He doesn't exactly need to interact with the customers in order to get his books out there, which again is kind of shooting him in the foot when he's trying to run an Indiegogo campaign. But Cody here and his team, well, they're hungry. Like J. Jonah Jameson always used to say, keep them hungry. And you can tell they're hungry. And they're out there and they're plugging this book and they're making sure that they're good to the fans, which, will be shocking to anybody who actually interacts with comic creators today. Look, you got someone who's actually interacting with the fans in a positive way. They're selling them books right there. So, as I said, if you like digital comics, if you go and look at Jack Irons #1 and you like what you see, go to the Indiegogo campaign, and the link be in the description. Go straight there and put a couple of dollars down on this. You probably are going to be quite surprised at the level of the quality that's going to increase if they actually get this also colored, because a couple of these colored pictures look spectacular. I gotta say, if you're just looking at the one online for Jack Irons #1, which is black and white, it's great art. But if you look at it when they have some of these pictures colored, it's amazing. It really works well with this art style. I am not a big fan of modern coloring, but with this art form, with this artist, it really works well, especially because you have sort of simplistic jagged edges for the art style, and when you combine that with the soft tones of the coloring, it kind of makes it pop. It really does. And I can't say that for a lot of modern comics. It doesn't work like that for a lot of modern comics. This is great. So, as I said, if you like digital comics, I suggest you go and back this. So that's my little review of Jack Irons. Hopefully, I will start catching up on these Indiegogo campaign. Well, not just Indiegogo campaigns, but they're just crowd-funded campaigns. There's a couple that aren't Indiegogo that I'm hoping to look at as well before the next round comes out, because at the end of the month, Richard Myers coming out with another one. I think it's on the 1st, and then you got Red Rooster coming out on the 5th. So I'm going to be looking into each of those as well. Hopefully, I'm going to have the time to look into each of those. All right, so if this was in any way, shape, or form helpful to you, hit like, hit subscribe, leave a comment, and hopefully you can share the link for this, not just for me, but to get the Jack Irons Indiegogo campaign out there to other people as well who may not have seen it yet. All right, I'll see you later. Bye.
Didn't hear what the bet was.
Your life